Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with this week's episode of the FNM Primer. This is a deck that I like to call Things I Had Lying Around, because that's literally how this deck was built, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. So far, it's doing quite well. I've been performing really good against control and aggro and mid-range, all three of them. Haven't really gone up against the Gauntlet, just some of the decks that are running around here. I'd love to see how it works versus like Bant Company. Did very well against Mono White Humans, though, and I've played some Black-Red Vampires. I've played a couple Jund mid-range with the Gitrog Monster and Kalitas type build. I was able to play against that, and then a blue-black control. All those has been performing phenomenally well. And the blue-black control is control. It's not just like a blue-black mid-range or anything like that. It's heavy control. So I was quite surprised at how well this did against control, as I built it to really work well against the Bant Collected Company, as well as the like Mono White Humans, as both of those are huge in the metagame at the moment. So this is a Goblin Dark-Dwellers deck. So everything in the deck is going to work around Goblin Dark-Dwellers. If you've been around the block around my channel for a while here, you know that I am a synergy player. So cards like Goblin Dark-Dwellers are very enticing for me to build around. So let's just go to the mana base. It's going to be a Mardu deck, and again, the central focus is going to be getting as much value out of the Goblin Dark-Dwellers. So what we have over here is we have 4 Battlefield Forges, 4 Caves of Koilos, 4 Shambling Vents, a Needle Spires, and 2 Smoldering Marshes. The Smoldering Marshes are a bit hard to come into play untapped, but they're basically the easiest of the cards that come into play untapped. The ones out of the Shadow of Innistrad are harder to reveal, like a mountain or a swamp, and the Smoldering Marsh can easily come into play turn 1, and then in turn 3, though, it can come into play untapped if you did throw down a basics, or like go Evolving Wilds into a basics on turn 1. So speaking of Evolving Wilds, there's 2 of here. We're running Evolving Wilds just because we have 4 colors in this deck. The other color is going to be colorless, so the Evolving Wilds can go get a Wastes. And that's also why we're running the Battlefield Forges and the Caves of Koilos. The Shambling Vents and Needle Spires are also very good. That's a lot of lands coming into play tap, but I'll show you why I added Needle Spires was a late addition. It's because of a card, and I'll show you that in a second. The other creatures we're going to run, and so this is going to work around an enter the battlefield type deck. So Goblin Dark-Dwellers is going to want to be flickered, and so the other cards in this deck are also going to want to be flickered. So one of the flickerers is going to be Eldrazi Displacer. I'm going to run 3 of them. So there's 3 Eldrazi Displacers. And what is not complete? What is an Eldrazi Displacer deck not complete without a Thoughtknot Seer? So we're going to run a full package of Thoughtknot Seer. They're very good. They help disrupt the opponents, especially mid-range decks and control decks, and also leave back a 4/4 body. And it's got a nice little ability with Eldrazi Displacer to flicker it, and at least you can get the better of the cards. So immediately when you flicker the Thoughtknot Seer, the opponent draws a card, and then when it re-enters the battlefield, then you get a look at their hand and get rid of another card. Then we have 2 of Wasteland Strangler, because we do have a lot of exile in this deck that I'll get to, and 2 is the right number. I am running a few 1-ofs here. The first 1-of that I'm running is a Pilgrim's Eye. I just felt that since we're at 25 lands, I can't justify. I really want to be at 26 with this deck. But the Pilgrim's Eye can go get me a land, and then it just works better than the Knight of the White Orchid. Hey, I said it correctly this time. It's not Orchard, it's Orchid. The Pilgrim's Eye can go get any one of a plains, which is a 1-of, a mountain, and a swamp in the deck. It can also go get the Wastes for the Eldrazi Displacer. Next, I'm going to run a Thopter Engineer. At first, it was 2 of my Pia and Kiran Nalaars, but I decided to go 1 Thopter Engineer and 1 Pia and Kiran Nalaar, as the Thopter Engineer comes out earlier. Pia is also quite awkward with the 3 red, or the double red. Red is actually one of the harder colors for us to, I believe there was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. 12 sources of red in the deck. And I think then it's like 15 and 18 is the next. So anyway, I'll have to look at the mana base. But red, even though we're running a lot of double red, it doesn't need to come out until later through the Pine Chronicler and Dark-Dwellers. You need these other things a lot earlier than the red. So the Thopter Engineer also allowed me to, it's just a 1/3, so it allows you against like early decks to establish a way to block the kind of swarm that the mono-white humans has. And Pia and Kiran Nalaar, of course, is better later game, but it also, Thopter Engineer, I can run like Radiant Flames on 2 and actually have something that survives, and we'll show about that in a minute. Then we are going to run a Wall of Resurgence. This is one of my late additions to the deck, and it was I put in a Needle Spires over a basic Plains recently for the Wall of Resurgence. I've had a lot of success with this card so far. It's kind of weird, awkward to make one of your lands vulnerable, but this is a card that if you keep flickering it, every time it enters the battlefield, you can put 3 counters on a land. It works so good with Needle Spires. I've already got the Dream off with Needle Spires, making it up to a 6/6, and then activating Needle Spires, it becomes an 8, and swinging in for 16 damage off of the double strike. So this is also another good card that comes out early and brings back a blocker. What's really fun with putting it on the Shambling Vent is you can then go Shambling Vent and block as a 3/3, and then activate the Shambling Vent using its own mana to make it a 5/6 after the blocking, and you can gain a lot of life. This is still not 100% in the deck. This is stuff I'm trying out. This is nowhere near complete. Then this is my final. This just barely came in the deck. It was in the sideboard. It wasn't even in the sideboard, but I put it in the sideboard as a way to actually kill the Kalitas. And because Kalitas was something that can give this deck a bit of a trouble. Plus, I was looking at a bunch of the decks out there like Bant Company and Mono White Humans and Jund Midrange, and this card hits like over 50% of the cards now in the metagame. You'd be surprised at what this guy hits. There are very few cards it doesn't hit. Hits Worldbreaker, that's a huge one. Kalitas, Worldbreaker, hits other Wasteland Strangler. Hits a ton of stuff on the Mono White Humans. There's a bunch of 2/1s, a 2/3 Reflector Mage. The Tireless Tracker is a 3/2. The Bygone Bishop is a 2/3. The Gilt-Leaf Winnower does a very good job at killing all of those cards. And unfortunately, it can't kill the Sylvan Advocate because it's an elf. That's one card I would love to hit with the odd even, but it says destroy target non-elf, saying that is an elf ally. Lastly, we are running 2 Kalitas, Traitor of Ghet, as Kalitas is... I was having a real problem with life. I do have the life link off the Shambling Vents, but the Battlefield Forge and Caves were dishing off a ton of damage, and I even have a few other ways that kind of drain my life total. We'll get to those in a second. But so Kalitas is miserable for some decks to try to compete against, and by running a lot of removal, especially like Wasteland Stranglers, who gets value off it, and getting 2/2 zombies is a lot of value of this card. It was just, if you're running black, this is usually a card that's going to be in the deck. It actually works for the exile for Wasteland Strangler, and Wasteland Strangler being flickered over and over can get you so much value later on. Lastly, I'm running a 1 of Sorin, Grim Nemesis. Sorin is a very powerful card right now in the metagame. The reveal is really good. Reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand, and each opponent loses a life equal to the conferred mana cost. But usually Sorin's going to kill something and then start getting you card draw. I like it over Omnixilus. It does a very, very similar thing that Omnixilus does by destroying cards, or destroying a creature and then start drawing you cards, but I think Sorin does a better job than Omnixilus. It's kind of funny that those two are so similar on what they do. Their ults are a lot different, but the negative and the positive are very similar. So on to the removal package. Let's pile these up here. The removal package is going to be a toolbox for the Goblin Dark-Dweller. So Goblin Dark-Dweller interacts quite well with all of these cards. The best one I found is Kolaghan's Command. I'm running a 2 of. I could justify going up to a 4 of or a 3 of Kolaghan's Command. It is that good right now in the metagame by usually killing a creature and getting you back something, or just killing and discarding. It's never dead. Any deck that it's good against, like against Control, you're going to be bouncing back a card that was countered or destroyed and then making them discard a card. So it's just a 2-for-1 right there. Against aggro, killing off a 2-drop, I was playing against vampires, and this card was miserable for vampires. Also, I was playing against my Boros Allies deck, and I believe turn 3, I was able to kill off a weapons trainer and an equipment. So, just huge advantage off that. One of the next best ones is going to be Anguish Unmaking. Here's another way I lose life, so that's where Kalitas comes in handy by gaining that life back that I lose. So exile target non-land permanent, you lose 3 life. It's just instant speed, very good. Goblin Dark-Dwellers gets a lot of advantage off of it. Next is a 1 of Complete Disregard. I think that this is really good in the format right now. The exile also works with Wasteland Strangler, and there's a few cards you want exiled. There's a lot of die effects in the format right now. This does also get rid of Kalitas at a 3/4. It also gets rid of Archangel of Ties at a 3/5. That's what Archangel of Ties is, a 3/5, right? And it takes care of a lot of problematic cards in the format right now. Then a 1 of To the Slaughter. We don't usually get a lot of Delirium off with To the Slaughter, but it's just a versatile removal spell. It makes them sacrifice a creature. So far I'm liking it. I would prefer if this was a 2-drop, of course, but at the times you do have a Delirium. Now you can't have a land in the graveyard quite easily. You can have an instant and a sorcery in the graveyard and a creature in the graveyard, and then the Delirium is online. But that usually doesn't happen. We don't have a lot of sorceries. Well, I guess we do, and then they can have to sacrifice a creature and a planeswalker. So versus like black-white midrange, this does a very good job against. Then we have a 1 of Ultimate Price. I think Ultimate Price is pretty powerful right now in the metagame. It only misses like Thoughtknot Seers, World Breakers, and Reflector Mages and Bounding Crasises. So I just have a 1 of in the deck. If it becomes mono white humans, if I feel like I need more. We have Kolaghan's Command, we have Anguish Unmaking, we have Complete Disregard. I have a lot of ways that can actually still punish the mono white. Mono white is kind of an issue game 1, game 2 and 3. We have a sideboard completely dedicated towards it. Then a 1 of Ruinous Path. This is another one that I felt was kind of awkward at the sorcery speed, but Goblin Dark-Dwellers, when it's flickered with the Eldrazi Displacer, could actually cast this at instant speed. But it was just very versatile. Planeswalkers are a big time issue with this deck. You have to kill off the Jaces. Jace is a huge one that you need to kill off. Opposing Sorins that you need to kill off. There could be some Nahiri's out. I tested Nahiri in this deck and I just didn't like it. Nahiri could be something I put back in the deck. I just prefer to have something that I can get a little more value out of. It just didn't seem to so vulnerable. It has to kill a tapped creature, so sometimes it doesn't even protect itself or herself. I'll try a Nahiri. Maybe I'll put it back in the sideboard again, but at the moment I don't have a Nahiri in the deck. The last 2 instant sorcery spells that I have is a 3 of Declaration in Stone. I could easily go up to 4 of. That's why we're running a low ultimate price. This card is bonkers good. It's probably one of the best cards, one of the most format defining cards in Standard at the moment. I don't have a Grasp of Darkness. That's another card that would be pretty decent in the format. Most of the things I want to get rid of, though, the Anguish Unmaking and the Complete Disregard can work for, or Declaration of Stone. The -4 instant speed is also a very good card. Grasp is incredibly good versus us. Kills Goblin Dark-Dwellers. Kills basically everything in our deck. Alright, and the super secret deck tech for this deck that is such an awesome card that I feel could even go up a little more in count, but we're running Eldrazi Displacer, so it's a little redundant, is the Eerie Interludes. This card is so much fun with Goblin Dark-Dwellers. Again, all the creatures that we have in this deck, save the Kalitas, have enter the battlefield effects. So the Wall of Resurgence, Gilt-Leaf Winnower, Pia and Kiran Nalaar, Thopter Engineer, Pilgrim, Thoughtknot Seers, I guess Eldrazi Displacer, but Wasteland Stranglers. Eerie Interlude, usually if I have 2 creatures out, gets a lot of value, or this is so much fun to like protect your creatures and then get value out of it. I love this card. It is absolutely bonkers good in this, because you don't have to exile all. It's just exile any number of target creatures you control and then return those in the battlefield at end step. So a lot of times my opponent will languish and then I'll get rid of all my cards and then return them to protect them, and then I get value out of it. What's really fun is to have a Goblin Dark-Dwellers out and they go Eerie Interlude, and then say if I had like multiple things that trigger, then when this comes back in the battlefield, you Eerie Interlude again, and then next end step they'll come back in the battlefield again, and it'll get even more value out of the Goblin Dark-Dwellers. So that's the point of Eerie Interlude. That's why I like it as a 2 of in the deck. Last card that I actually have, very last one is a Read the Bones, just a 1 of. Read the Bones. It gives me another target to draw. Not a lot of card draw in here save Sorin, and you're just getting the card advantage through the Goblin Dark-Dwellers. Now, Goblin Dark-Dwellers, after testing it out over and over, I really like the card. It feels like a Snapcaster Mage in this format, and it's just you just have to stabilize for a while, and then probably the best matchup was against that Jund. I just felt like I was always in the driver's seat with that game. Very good against 1-for-1ing main board. So onto the sideboard, we have to worry about decks that we can't 1-for-1 efficiently. So even though Goblin Dark-Dwellers cannot, well, it can cast this, it's Radiant Flames. Radiant Flames in a tricolor deck, very, very good. It hits everything. Why I like Radiant Flames over some of the other ones is most of the cards out of Bant are 3 toughness. So Radiant Flames needs to do 3. And that is something that Kozilek's Return can't do, but I am running a 1 of. And also the Flaying Tendrils. Flaying Tendrils is exile. I really like it. So it wipes a bunch of tokens like Gideon tokens. And then it can also just wipe early mono white humans quite well. Allies. It does an okay job versus Bant. I don't know if I'd bring it in versus Bant. I think you just have to rely on Radiant Flames or just trying to get their collected companies out of their hands through our discard package. So the discard package is going to be a 2 of Duress and a 3 of Transgress the Mind. This is one of the best cards in form right now because it hits most threats. And a 1 of Infinite Obliteration. So Infinite Obliteration, you can name World Breaker usually. You bring it in versus World Breaker. You bring it in versus someone that runs a specific of 1 card. Like, what was I went up against like a Thing in the Ice deck and was able to bring it in and just name all the Thing in the Ice. Even though Thing in the Ice is terrible against this deck, we have so many ways to kill it. Almost all of our removal hits it quite efficiently. But, I mean, if there is just like a one-trick pony deck that's using just 1 or 2 creatures, you can Infinite Obliteration, get them all out, and then you're good to go. But it's really in here for World Breaker and Ulamog. We have another Read the Bones that we can bring in. And speaking of those Secure the Waste decks, Virulent Plague is the card to bring in. They do have usually Anguish Unmaking to use against your Virulent Plague. So Virulent Plague's not going to 100% stop the Gideon Secure the Waste deck, but it is something they have to answer before they can basically go off or try to get their Westvale Abbey flipped or their Secure the Waste nonsense. Right now, the other 2 cards that are just kind of in here, I'm just testing out, are going to be Sidisi and Linvala the Preserver. So far, I've had a lot of good times with Sidisi, even if I've had to sacrifice. Like, I've sacked, what I sacked earlier with the Sidisi. Oh, I sacked a Kalitas just so I could have a 4/6 body. This dodges a lot of things in the format, dodges Languish, and it's just a tough card once it gets out a 4/6 Death Toucher. It's hard to push through it. And then you get to go tutor anything off of it. It's a good card to basically flicker, especially if you can flicker the either one of our token generators, being the Pineclaw or Thopter Engineer. It's also really good with Pilgrim's Eye. Once at this point, you probably can just safely kill it. So that's the Justice of Sidisi. Again, we're just testing these out. I'm not 100% sold on either of these cards. Linvala was really good. What I really need in this deck is an Archangel or Avacyn. We need Avacyn in the deck. Unfortunately, Avacyn, all the ones we've picked up at the shop, we've sold. So we're out of Avacyn, so I don't have an Avacyn to work with right now. But I think Avacyn would be pretty bonkers in this deck, being a way to protect all of your creatures. And again, I think it's really Nahiri and Avacyn that I need to do a little more testing with to know what the numbers of each of those should be. But I'm open to suggestions, so if you have any suggestions in this kind of Mardu deck, again, it's just a Mardu Goblin Dark-Dwellers deck. I am 100% sold on this card after playing it over and over. The 4/4 Menace body is huge. A lot of people forget about the Menace on this guy. A 4/4 evasion that gets back a Kolaghan's Command, or Kolaghan's Command gets back it, and then you can Kolaghan's Command again. Huge, huge value out of those 2 cards, and that's basically the reason. White is just, I think white you need to go with the Thoughtknot Seer. You're going to be running like Battlefield Forge anyway, and I think it's the smart route to go, is just to splash in the white. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.